32 ways to handle presentation questions using business English phrases. Welcome to Toomey Business English. If you like this content, then please like and subscribe to our channel. Now, let's face it, the questions at the end of a presentation can be terrifying for many speakers as they can't be controlled and are hard to prepare for. For non-native speakers particularly, it's important to be well prepared, and part of the preparation means knowing the phrases to handle questions. In this lesson, I'll be teaching you 32 example phrases, and you can easily change the phrases to suit your needs and circumstances. And to help you further, I've created a cheat sheet which you can download from the description below this video. So, let's go! We will start off by looking at questions known as clarifying questions. It's when the presenter checks that they've understood the question from the audience correctly. And here are the examples. I'm sorry, could you repeat your question, please? So, if I understood you correctly, you'd like to know whether there will be redundancies in our organization? So, in other words, you would like to know whether the database purchase will ensure efficiency. Does that answer your question? I'm afraid I didn't quite catch that. If I could just rephrase your question, you'd like to know if these security standards are the minimum? Next up, we will look at the phrases used for checking whether the audience member is satisfied. For example, an audience member has asked a question. The presenter answers and then checks to see that they've understood. Does that answer your question? Is that clearer now? Is that the kind of information you were looking for? Moving on, what happens when you get a good question from an audience member? How do you respond to it? It's good practice to acknowledge it. Good point. I'm glad you asked that. That's a very good question. Next, sometimes the presenter might not know the answer to an audience member's question. This brings us to the admitting you don't know phrases. I don't know the answer to your question, but I'll aim to find out for you. Sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head. Sorry, that's not my area of expertise, but I'm sure Steve Beasley from the research department could answer your question. I'm afraid I'm not in a position to answer that question at the moment. Sometimes an audience member will ask a question and it's pointless, it's irrelevant, but the presenter has to respond to the question. That's not really my area of expertise. Well, I think that goes beyond the scope of my expertise. To be honest, I think that raises a different issue. Next, the presenter may get a difficult or awkward question and avoid answering. If you don't mind, could we discuss that on another occasion? I'm afraid that's not really what we are discussing today. Well, actually, I'd prefer not to discuss that today. Postponing questions. It's when the presenter assures the audience member that there will be an opportunity to revisit the question later on in the session. And here are the example phrases. If you don't mind, I'll come back to this point later on in the presentation. Can we get back to this point a bit later? I will definitely answer your question toward the end of the presentation. Would you mind waiting until the question and answer session at the end? Perhaps we could go over this after the presentation. Summarising after interruptions. It's meaning an audience member interrupted and asked a question. It's where the presenter needs to remain composed in directing the audience back to the presentation. And here are the example phrases. So now I'd like to go back to what we were discussing earlier. Before we go on, let me briefly summarise the main points we've discussed. And finally, in handling questions, we have the closing questions and answers. It's when the presenter gives the audience the option to ask any final questions. I think we have time for one more question. So, if there are no further questions, it's time to end my presentation and thank you all for attending today. If there are no further questions, I'll finish there. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the To Me Business English channel.